Hello and welcome to Unacademy IAS. This is Shyam Kaggod here, taking up the Hindu news analysis for the date 25th November 2025. Now, before I start the discussion, do let me know that I'm audible and visible for all of you. Am I audible and visible? Please do let me know. Done. Thanks a lot. So, this is the list of the 10 topics that I'll be taking up in today's session. All the 10 are from the daily edition of Hindu newspaper. The discussion will be comprehensive in order to address your queries regarding the prelims as well as mains examination. If you're liking this initiative, do not forget to hit the like button. And if you're yet to join our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Let's begin. But before that, two very important announcements. Those who are aiming to ace the civil services examination in 2026, ensure that your comprehensive coverage of static portion is done. You have the right coverage of the current affairs. You'll also have access to multiple prelims as well as mains test series. Once you enroll into our courses, which is available at the price of 19,999 now, all of this will be made available to you. Those who are interested, do check out the details by clicking on the link provided in the description. And second very important announcement, very recently the COP30 meeting has concluded. The Conference of Parties 30th round meeting is concluded. On the important outcomes and how India has been one of the winners in the COP30, Mukesh sir has already recorded and uploaded a video on our YouTube channel. Those who want to watch it, do check out the video. And if you ask me, is it relevant for the UPSC prelims as well as mains? Absolutely yes. For both, it is important. Now, let me start the discussion. The first article, starting with the editorial page, Bridging India's Numeracy. The article discusses one of the very important favorite subjects of some of us and the dreaded subject of most of us. That is, the article discusses on the subject mathematics. What is the issue with mathematics in India in terms of learning? What has been the foundational issue associated with that? What has been done by the government so far? And what more should be done in the coming days? Let's understand all these particular points one by one. Let's start. In the context of India, right now in education sector, the National Education Policy 2020 is implemented. Remember this, NEP 2020. Very recently, a lot of discussion has been happening surrounding the idea of a national education policy. But within the national education policy, it mentions that in order to harness, right, let's say the demography of India, in order to ensure that the children in India are employed over a period of time, are getting better jobs, right, etc. It basically focuses on foundational learning. Foundational learning. And what do you mean by foundational learning in this particular context? Foundational literacy and numeracy. Remember the terms foundational literacy and numeracy. That is FLN. I'll be using the short form FLN going forward, or the acronym FLN. In the context of FLN, what does it actually mean? It simply means when a particular student is studying, let's say in the third standard, according to the requirements of the third standard, the student should be able to read certain paragraph in English and also should be able to solve certain mathematical calculations. And by the way, when you talk about third standard, fourth standard, fifth standard, etc., what kind of mathematical calculations are you expecting? You're expecting the right child, right? It's a child. He's a child, by the way. Right? So the child to solve basic numerical, right? Let's say calculations. It could be addition, subtraction, the fractions, multiplications, etc. The basic mathematics. But in case of India, different surveys have shown that the FLN levels, the foundational literacy and numeracy skills, or the levels of the students in different standards are lagging behind. For example, when this particular survey will be conducted, they go and ask a student who is studying in, let's say, fifth standard to solve a mathematical calculation which is generally studied or taught in the third standard or the fourth standard. And in many of the cases, the surveys have shown that a large chunk of the children, they are not able to solve age appropriate mathematical calculations. And this basically will be over a period of time becoming a problem for the children. And as a result of this, many of the students will develop a phobia of mathematics. For example, a lot of you itself, right, and including me in my childhood, we have developed a phobia surrounding the idea of a maths. Either there will be people who will absolutely love mathematics, and there'll be certain people who will dread mathematics. That is, even when they are very much sleeping, you say the word mathematics, they will wake up with, right, let's say fear. So basically, we have this kind of a two groups of people in India now, because argument is simple. When we were children, the maths has not been taught in the right way. Underline the term right way. What do you mean by the right way? Either it has been covered just to cover the syllabus, just to meet the number of hours where the mathematics has to be taught to the children, and basically to cover the syllabus and give a test and evaluate how the student is doing. But more importantly, the focus is not on whether the children are able to understand mathematics, whether the children are able to apply mathematics in real life. You must have seen many children or many people surrounding you who are brilliant in academic studies, brilliant in academic studies. They will score 94%, 95%, etc. But when it is the question of applying what they have learned in the class in the real life, they will basically fail there. They cannot understand, they cannot comprehend, they do not understand how to apply what they have learned in the classroom in the real life. So these are some of the issues that have been raised historically in the context of students being taught, right, the numeracy skills. Again, I'm focused on numeracy for a simple reason. Yes, there is a problem in terms of literacy levels as well. That is, whether the student in a class 7th, class 6th, or class 5 are they able to read, let's say, a paragraph in English very efficiently or not, very correctly, grammatically correct or not. There is a problem with that as well. But the gap, according to a survey, the gap that is existing between the foundational literacy level as well as a foundational numeracy level, the gap is around 18 percentage. And most of the states have reported that for a survey which has been conducted, around 47% of the students are able to read the paragraphs efficiently. But in terms of solving the mathematical calculations, only around 30% of the students or the children are able to do it correctly, which basically shows we are far behind, we are lagging behind in terms of providing foundational, right, let's say numeracy skill sets, or the, right, let's say the knowledge that is required for the children. Now, what is the reform that has been implemented by the government? Like I said earlier, under national education policy, this has been pushed forward. It says we have to ensure FLN will be made or will be provided to the children. And in order to achieve that, the government of India back in the year 2021 announced a new initiative by the name of Nipun Bharat. Please remember this. Nipun Bharat. Nipun basically stands for National Initiative for Proficiency in Reading with Understanding and Numeracy. Memorize the full form, can be asked in the preliminary examination. Under this initiative, the government of India implemented this as a centrally sponsored scheme, specifically under the umbrella scheme called as Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan. Under this, the government of India essentially ensured that, one, the teachers will be trained in a better way, a better, right, let's say training will be provided to the teachers, and the material that is available to the students will be made much more student friendly. But in addition to both of these, which are required by the way, in addition to both of these, there was also a pillar of following the progress, tracking the progress of the students under the initiative. For example, in lot of cases, if you implement a scheme and you do not keep a track of the scheme, that is how efficiently the, right, or how effectively the scheme is being implemented, money will be spent, training will be provided to the, right, let's say teachers, but if you do not keep a track of how many children are able to improve their ability now, it will be a failure. So the government of India implemented Nipun Bharat. And under this, have a look at this. Ensure that every child necessarily attains foundational literacy and numeracy by the end of grade 3 by 26 and 27. So the argument of the right, let's say the writer here is, despite being implemented, there is still a huge gap in terms of providing numeracy knowledge to the children. Now, before talking about the children, I'm pretty sure all of you are adults by now, all of you are above the age of 18 years. Please tell me honestly by the way, how many of you understand why a square plus b square is equal to c square in a right angled triangle? I want you to be honest by the way. All of you, including me, we remember it, we have memorized it. But how many of you actually understand why a square plus b square is equal to c square? And even the teacher did not bother to teach this in the class. And as a student, we were too much afraid of asking this question to the teacher, sir, why is that a square plus b square is equal to c square? Even if you have asked the faculty or the teacher at that point of time, the teacher would have scolded you, would have reprimanded you, would have threatened to give you less number of marks because you are humiliating the teacher in front of the whole class, etc. So I hope you understand there is a very, very simple explanation to this. I learned this in a, right, let's say in a scientific exhibition. The basic argument here is a square, develop a square, right? Make a square equivalent to the size of the side here and make one more square equivalent to the side of the B or size of the length of the B, and now make an equivalent square. Of course, I know it doesn't look like a square. Don't please tell me, sir, it doesn't look like a square, it looks like a rectangle. Don't worry, make a square equivalent to the sides of A, B as well as C. Now whatever is the area of square 1 plus square 2 is equal to area of square 3. This is how basically the Pythagoras theorem has to be explained to the students. But in lot of the classes, this is not taught. They'll simply say a square plus b square is equal to c square. Memorize it. If the numbers are given, substitute, get the number, go forward, they'll say. But the argument is simple. There are multiple children, thousands of children throughout India who do not understand the theory behind this, who do not understand why is this equal to this. And because the teachers are mainly focused on the completion of the portion, hitting the number of hours, the students develop a phobia associated with mathematics. This is the first very important problem. Please remember this. And the second very important problem highlighted in this article is the fact that in many of the cases, even if the children are lagging behind, we do not have sufficient infrastructure in the form of, let's say, staff, in the form of teachers, in the form of household support, etc., to go to the level of the student, that is the level of understanding of the student, and provide hand-holding services. Provide hand-holding services. Teach them at their level, not at your level. Teacher will know a lot of material. Teacher will know a lot of equation, but the same cannot be expected from the side of the student. That is the second issue. Third issue, in case of India, now the focus is always on whether the student is going to classroom or not, whether the student is attending the class or not, that is enrollment as well as the attendance, and whether the student is getting score percentage of marks or not. But the focus is not on improving learning level. Focus is simply on rote learning. All of you heard of this particular term? The focus is on rote learning, not understanding, not conceptual clarity. Focus is always on rote learning. As a result of all of this, what will be the outcome? One, like I said earlier, the children do not understand how to apply what they have learned in the class in the real life. And if somebody has learned something in the real life, they do not understand how to apply that in the classroom, right? Let's say portion that or the syllabus they are learning. That is the first important outcome. Second important outcome is lot of students, because they have developed a phobia towards this particular subject of mathematics, they will either drop out 7th standard, 8th standard, they will drop out. Even if they continue to learn, when they appear for public examination, they will not be able to clear the public examination and they will fail and eventually drop out of the learning altogether. So there are issues, and all of these have repercussions. Repercussions in the sense, in case of India, whenever you talk about the population of India, we highlight the fact that India has a huge potential to harness the demographic dividend. There is a huge number of population which can be provided with the skill set. They will basically be, right, over a period of time contributing to the production. They'll be contributing to growth, development, India becoming a developed country over a period of time. But if more and more children are left behind this way, obviously it will hamper the growth prospects as well as the development objectives of the government. So these are some of the issues that have been highlighted. Now, what is the solution? Is there any solution to this kind of a problem that is daunting? That is basically a very important issue for India. What is the solution? Some of the recommendations which have been provided are: one, in case of the educational institutions, can the management in the educational institutions become more proactive? More more proactive in the sense, there have been various case studies which have been conducted where the school management has taken the initiative. Different groups of students have been identified as lagging behind, and special attention and care has been provided to these particular children. And I know a lot of you will be looking at this recommendation and saying, sir, it is not possible in all the cases. Agreed, it is not possible. But in certain cases where it is possible, why don't we implement it? That is the first recommendation. In fact, in many of the school managements in cities, what they have done is they have promoted parents' participation. They have promoted parents' participation. What do you mean by parents' participation here? The children who are lagging behind are identified and the groups are made, and within the parents of the students, there will be certain parents who are very good in terms of mathematics. They are very good in terms of science. They are very good in terms of other subjects, life sciences, etc. Why don't we encourage their participation, maybe weekly once every 15 days, so that they can interact, right? Resolve the doubts of the students who are lagging behind, etc. That is basically one more recommendation which has been provided by experts. I'm not sticking to what is given in the article, I'm going beyond the article. Third recommendation is corporate social responsibility. Corporate social responsibility, CSR. What is this idea of a corporate social responsibility? In case of India, certain companies who have met certain criteria have been identified under the Companies Act provision, and they will have to spend 2% in, right, let's say certain events or certain, right, let's say under certain operations under corporate social responsibility. There have been multiple companies who have already conducted this kind of initiative where they're focused on providing education, improvement in the infrastructure in the schools, especially in the villages, etc. Why don't we promote corporate social responsibility as well? And listen to me carefully. In lot of these cases, one of the expert basically says why the students are lagging behind is the fact that there is no support in the household. There is an added pressure in the household. What do you mean by added pressure? In multiple households in villages, if the whole family will go to agriculture field, there are children in the home. Rather than going to the school, this child will be asked to take care of the youngsters, or let's say the children, other children in the home. Rather than asking the child to go to, let's say, school, the child, generally the girl child, will be asked to cook in the home, clean in the home, take care of other household activities. And moreover, in lot of these households, the approach, or let's say the parents generally approach towards these particular standards, that is the first standard, second standard, third standard, with a very cavalier approach. They have a very relaxed approach towards that, because either they have not studied in those particular standards, they are completely illiterate, and they do not understand what is the importance of providing education to the child. And they feel, because of that, they feel First standard, second standard is very, very easy. What they have to learn? Simply addition, subtraction, etc. It's not at all difficult. The child will be able to manage even if the child misses the schools. So these are some of the issues as well as the recommendations that have been provided in the context of, let's say, the numeracy and the literacy gap that is existing, especially amongst the school going children. Everybody is okay with the discussion? Now, based on the discussion that I've done so far, take up the assignment. Weak foundational literacy and numeracy has significant socio-economic consequences. Why does India face challenges despite implementation of Nipun Bharat? You'll have to write the answer in 250 words. It's a 15 marker question. Introduction, you can start with national education policy. That is there in your fingertips. NEP 2020 envisages providing FLN so that the population, the efficiency of the population can be harnessed, etc. Then in the main body, you can come to the Nipun Bharat initiative. When it was launched, what is the objective, what has been done under Nipun Bharat. Now, second part of the main body, you can mention, despite implementing this for more than 4 years, why the learning levels or FLN levels, especially in numeracy, is lagging behind in India. You can write certain pointers associated with that, and finally, in the way forward. In the conclusion, you can write what is the recommendation. What are the different ways you can address these particular problems? Done? Okay. Now let me go forward. Everybody is okay with the first article? Please do let me know. Is everybody okay with the first article? Can I move on to the second article now? Great. Let's go to the second article. Editorial, labor and honor. Labor and honor. Okay, what are the important points mentioned here? Listen to me very carefully. The government of India very recently has notified 4 labor codes. Correct? It has notified the 4 labor codes. Labor code associated with wages, labor code associated with occupational safety, associated with industrial relations, etc. The 4 labor codes have been notified. The issue associated with the 4 labor codes is, please understand, are the labor codes required for the Indian economy? There is absolutely no doubt associated with that. Because in case of India, the labor laws which have been announced, and I'm pretty sure in the last 1 week, you are hearing this for multiple times now. The labor laws which have been implemented in India, these are very, very old labor laws. Very old labor laws. These were formulated back in 1940s, 1950s, 1930s. And they do not represent what is the current situation in the labor market in India, which is very dynamic, where there is a lot of flexibility required. There are a lot of issues plaguing the labor market. That is the precise reason the government of India has announced rationalization of the labor laws. 29 labor laws have been consolidated into 4 labor codes. Now, this is basically the static portion of it. What is happening in the current affairs? In the current affairs, the labor trade unions are opposed to this. The labor trade unions are opposed to this. What is their argument? Their argument is many of the reforms which have been recommended by many experts, including the National Labour Commission, the recommendations which were in the favor of protecting the interest of the labor, these kind of reforms have been omitted by the government. These reforms have been not considered in the labor code. And when these labor codes were formulated, there was no sufficient consultations held with the labor trade unions. Many of these particular provisions provide unduly higher power to the companies, that is the employer. They can simply hire and fire more number of employees now, because that kind of a flexibility to certain companies, not the all companies, to certain companies has been provided under the labor laws. Hence, many of the trade unions are opposed to the implementation of the labor codes now. Having said so, listen to me very carefully. There are multiple issues in the labor market in India. Please remember the term here. There are supply side issues as well as demand side issues in the labor market. Supply side issues as well as demand side issues in the labor market. For example, we do not have sufficient skilled labor in India. There is a more and more adoption of artificial intelligence, as a result of which more unemployment is getting created. You must have heard multiple software companies removing the number of labors left, right, and center, not only in India but also in the global market. There is a issue related to sufficient number of formal jobs which are created. Formal jobs essentially are quality jobs. Quality jobs which will guarantee certain guaranteed income to the workers, which will provide protection or the security of the job, etc. So quality job creation, very less. Skilled labor, very less. Right? And there are multiple other issues that are plaguing the labor market. Now, with the announcement of labor codes, some of these issues, again I'm saying, some of these particular issues to a certain extent will be reduced or will be addressed. Not all the issues, some of the issues to a certain extent will be addressed with the implementation of labor codes. But now what is the solution then? On one side, you want labor codes to be implemented, but on the other hand, labor trade unions are opposed to your labor codes. What is the solution? The one way forward that you can write, if at all a question is asked on this, is that can the government of India conduct, have a look at this, can the government of India conduct the next round of Indian Labour Conference? Can the government of India conduct the next round of Indian Labour Conference, ILC? Right? What is the importance of ILC here? ILC, please remember, it is basically a tripartite. It is a tripartite consultative committee. It is a tripartite consultative committee. Right? What do you mean by tripartite here? In simple terms, it is basically having three parties. There are three parties in the ILC. What are the three parties? One is the labor, second one is the government, and the third one the employers, that is the companies. So this is a tripartite labor or consultative committee which is working under Ministry of Labor, which is under the Ministry of Labor. Generally what used to happen is the ILC used to be conducted, and there is no compulsion that it has to be conducted after specific time period only. Generally the convention has been that ILC would be conducted annually or whenever there is a requirement of it. The first ILC was conducted back in the year 1942. It was conducted back in the year 1942. And the last ILC has been conducted by the Government of India, which is the 46th ILC in the year 2015. Have a look at this. 46th ILC was conducted back in the year 2015. After this, no ILC has been conducted by the government. So why not use this as an opportunity? Government of India should use this as an opportunity, convene an ILC, talk to all the stakeholders, that is the trade unions, through the ILC, and ensure that there is an efficient implementation or acceptance of these particular labor codes. And the labor codes can be implemented going forward without any kind of a friction between the trade union, the government, as well as the employers. So the Government of India should use this opportunity, convene the 47th ILC. Look at this, 2015 was the 46th ILC. After that, no ILC has been conducted by the government. So convene an ILC, talk to the stakeholders, and then bring them on the board. And as such, many of the states already have framed rules for the implementation of 4 labor codes. And the government has stated, other states, any kind of assistance is required in framing the rules, the union government is ready to provide the assistance. So states, yes. The companies, yes, it will take time. Lot of issues will arise, but we should be able to bring the companies on board. And what is the other stakeholder that is left out? That is the trade union or labor union. Use this as an opportunity, bring them on board as well. Done? Everybody is okay with the discussion? So this is basically the let's say the different points which have been provided in this particular editorial. Labor laws. Associated with this, I've given an MCQ. Please solve the MCQ and tell me the answer very quickly. Consider the following statements regarding Indian Labour Conference. Statement 1. Government of India has been holding annually since 1947. ILC is a statutory body set up under Ministry of Labor. It is also known as Labour Parliament of India. What is the right answer? Please do let me know. Lot of you are saying only two. Option B. Option A. Some of you are saying option B, some of you are saying option A. What about others? Sir, neither A nor B. Okay, let's solve it. Government of India has been holding annually since 1947. No, it is incorrect. It is incorrect. Okay. Right. So first, like I said, first 1942, and even after that, if you take 1947 and 2015, I said that was the 47th. 47th. So please do the CSAT calculation. You will realize it has not been held annually. Okay. ILC is a statutory body set up under the Ministry of Labor, right? Is it a statutory body? It is a part of, or it is a consultative committee under the Ministry of Labor. You are absolutely right. But is it a statutory body? No, it is not a statutory body. It is not a statutory body. It is simply a consultative committee. It is also known as a Labour Parliament of India. Yes, this particular statement is correct. Third statement is correct. It is also known as Labour Parliament of India. So third statement is correct. Right option for this question will be option A. Only one is correct. Now, let's go to the next article. Why do infant deaths persist in tribal dominated Melghat? Right? Melghat is a region. It's a place in the state of Maharashtra. In the state of Maharashtra. Very recently, lot of issues have arisen regarding hearing which is being conducted in a high court in Maharashtra. What is the issue? What are the important points you need to understand? Let's go. Let's start now. Mehelghat, like I said, is a region in the state of Maharashtra, right? And have a look at this. Very recently, the Maharashtra High Court has, or Bombay High Court has reprimanded, has pulled up the local officials for their lax implementation, very inefficient implementation of multiple reforms in this particular region. Why? This particular region has a very high population or dominating population of tribals. Please remember this. The region has a very high population of tribals. How much? 80% of the people who are residing in this particular region belong to one or the other tribal community. For example, the different tribal communities are what? One, Korkus. Second one, Gaulis, Nihali or Nihal, Gonds, etc. So different tribal communities, and again I'm repeating this, 80% of the population which is residing in this particular region is basically tribal population. Within this particular tribal community, one which is the most dominating in terms of population and the presence is basically the Korku tribal communities. Korku tribal communities. Now what is happening? Listen to me carefully. In the last 6 months, more than 60 children below the age of 6 months, I repeat, in the last 6 months, more than 60 children below the age of 6 months have died in this particular region. And according to the petition which has been filed to the Bombay High Court, it states it is because the children are not having sufficient access to food, malnutrition. The reason which has been cited according to the petition filed in the Bombay High Court is the children are dying because of malnutrition. And this number, more than 60 children in the last 6 months, it's a disheartening number. It's a very, very big, let's say number in terms of, let's say, when you look at what is the age group, less than 6 months, less than 6 months. Now, what is the argument of the district administration here? Right? What is the argument as well as counter argument, and what is the way forward? Let's understand. The administration basically says understand this, the government or the administration in that particular region argues that they are implementing the reforms according to whatever guidelines have been announced by the government. For example, the administration says that they have set up food camps in this particular region, where banana, etc., other food is also provided. There are village camps which have been set up to take care of the children. But their argument is despite implementing these particular reforms, there is an issue in terms of peripheral infrastructure. I'll come to this. Peripheral infrastructure. There is an issue in terms of peripheral infrastructure. And there are also other reasons why these particular deaths have taken place. Other reasons. It could be pneumonia, it could be other diseases. So it's not that all the 60 children have died because of malnutrition. No, there are multiple other reasons why the deaths have taken place. These are the arguments which have been put forward by the local administration there. But having said so, the counter argument is that the local administration there has not provided sufficient infrastructure as of now. For example, the road connectivity. The road connectivity. The road connectivity in this particular region is very, very poor. That is the first one. And whenever you're talking about access to the healthcare infrastructure, a person who falls ill has to take the road connectivity to reach the hospital. A pregnant woman has to take the road to reach the hospital. So, one, road connectivity is very, very poor in this particular region. Second reason is healthcare infrastructure is there. Yes, no doubt, healthcare infrastructure is present. But what about the workers in this particular infrastructure? Workers in the sense, doctors have been appointed, but the absence of the doctors is very, very high. Very high absence of doctors, right, in this particular hospitals. Despite government providing higher incentives, providing higher salaries, the doctors are not, right, let's say, okay with working in these particular regions. And that's a reason appointments are done. But the absence of the doctors or the healthcare workers is also very, very high in this particular region. So, multiple issues have been cited by the experts in this particular region who are residing in these region or who have studied these particular regions as to the reasons why, despite the reforms being implemented, and by the way, the government of India has announced multiple reforms, especially covering the pregnant and lactating woman. For example, in this particular case, you can remember what kind of reforms or the initiatives have been announced by the government. One is a PM Matru Vandana Yojana. PM Matru Vandana Yojana. Right. Another one is Janani Suraksha. Shishu Suraksha Yojana. Third one is Janani Suraksha Yojana. Janani Suraksha Yojana. So, multiple initiatives in this particular format or in this way have been announced and are being implemented by the government. For example, under PM Matru Vandana Yojana itself, the government of India provides financial aid. Of course, you will have to meet certain conditions under the initiative, but the government will provide certain financial aid using which access to nutrition, access to, right, let's say, medicines can be provided for the pregnant and lactating woman. But what is the way forward then? Having looked at all of this, what is the way forward? Way forward is very simple. One, you need to have a whole base approach. Whole base approach means the whole of state, whole of the society will have to be participating here. How so? You need to communicate to the people as to what is the importance of getting the healthcare access. You need to communicate. You need to make them understand. Second one, you need to appoint ASHA co-workers. ASHA co-workers, they will play a very important role whenever these kind of issues will arise. Appointment of ASHA co-workers has to be done. In addition to this, government has to ensure sufficient healthcare facilities are provided in the region, and the healthcare workers or the service providers will have to be present in this particular region. Not just appointment, but the workers should be present in this particular region so that whenever these kind of issues will arise, there will be support from the healthcare community. Right? So, this kind of approach has been recommended by the experts in the context of the Korku tribal issue that is being heard in the Bombay High Court. In addition to this region is known for one more important, let's say, the point associated with ecology and environment. It also houses the tiger reserve. Please remember, this also houses a tiger reserve, Melghat Tiger Reserve. In fact, the Melghat Tiger Reserve, recognized, established by the Union government under Project Tiger, it was the first tiger reserve in Maharashtra. Please remember, it was the first tiger reserve in Maharashtra. Done? Okay. Now, associated with this, let's solve an MCQ very quickly. Consider the following statements. Melghat Tiger Reserve is the first tiger reserve in Maharashtra. Already I've told you, yes. It is covered under Project Tiger, yes. Now, solve the third statement. Solve the third statement. Tiger census is conducted once every 5 years, and as per the latest data, Madhya Pradesh has the highest tigers. Madhya Pradesh has the highest tiger reserve. How many of you think the third statement is correct? The first and second, I told you, you'll say very easy question. Suddenly look at the third statement and now you'll be having certain confusion. The tiger census is conducted once every 5 years. It is incorrect. A lot of you are saying yes, it is incorrect. Tiger census is not conducted once every 5 years. It is conducted once every 4 years. The last tiger census was conducted back in 2022. Remember, back in the year 2022. Right, the next tiger reserve is yet to be conducted. And according to the latest tiger census, the statement, second part of the statement, that is Madhya Pradesh has the highest number of tigers. That is correct. Second part of the statement is correct, but not the first part of the statement. So the third statement incorrect. Right option for the question will be option B. Only two of them are correct. Let's go forward. G20 Meet. Right? G20 Meet. The G20 Meet has concluded. Now it is the time for us to basically evaluate what are the outcomes in the G20 Meet. What are the outcomes? Has India gained anything from participating in the G20 Meet? Let's understand. Point number one. Point number one. For the first time ever, USA did not participate in the G20 Meet. Let's go point by point here. For the first time ever, USA did not participate in the G20 meeting. A major country, a developed country, the largest economy by far, did not participate in the G20. The government boycotted this. The president did not represent USA. They sent a junior diplomat to basically be represented or to be present and take the gavel. Gavel means basically the wooden instrument that is used. The gavel will be handed over from South Africa to USA because USA is the next host country. They sent a junior diplomat. That's it. That is the first important takeaway. Second very important takeaway, listen to me carefully. Whenever these kind of group meetings are conducted, generally in the first initial days, whatever the number of days for which it is supposed to be held, discussions are held, and finally on the last day, the text declaration is provided. Is it okay? The text declaration is provided on the last day of the meeting. But in the G20, basically there was a change. On the first day itself, the president, that is South Africa, read out the text. Basically read out the text declaration of the G20 group. In fact, it was opposed. The text or the draft was opposed by USA, was opposed even by Argentina. It was opposed even by Argentina. And as such, the representative, that is the president of Argentina, Javier Milei, was not present. Chinese premier, not present. Right? And even USA's head was not present. They opposed it. That is specifically Argentina and USA. They opposed it. But even then, the declaration was read out and accepted. But in this declaration, there were certain important points which are associated with the demands of India. Demands of India. India wanted certain things to be mentioned in the declaration, and these were actually mentioned in the declaration. And why is that important? Please understand, the declaration documents holds a certain importance. For example, a couple of months ago, I'm pretty sure all of you remember when the defense meet was conducted in China, right? The Indian representative, that is the India's defense minister, walking away because there was no mention of certain things that India wanted it to be mentioned. So argument is certain declaration points were basically representative of what India wanted. For example, let's say criticizing terrorism in all the forms, criticism of terrorism, promotion of women participation, promotion of, right, let's say the clean energy projects, etc. So different types of right mentions were done in the declaration, which were the demands of India, which is a very big win for India as such. Third very important takeaway from the G20 meeting is IPSA meeting. IPSA, right? India, Brazil, and South Africa. IPSA, India, Brazil, and South Africa. What is this India, Brazil, South Africa? It is basically a trilateral grouping. Three countries, all the three are associated with the G20, and all the three are associated with even BRICS group of countries as well. So, IPSA group of countries, India, Brazil, and South Africa, held meetings, and which is required, which is actually needed. It shows the fact that India is willing to work with other countries within the G20 as well, basically to put forward, right, the interest of India. And if you look at all the three countries, take it for example South Africa, Brazil, and India for that matter. In recent times, all the three countries in one or the other way have been targeted by USA's administration. One or the other way, all the three have been targeted by USA's administration. So it sends a message, it sends a signal to, right, Mr. Donald Trump, that other countries are willing to work together despite the absence of the major economy, that is USA. And finally, the different speeches that were given, especially, for example, the Canadian Prime Minister, who basically took a dig at the president of USA and stated that the other countries around the world are willing to move forward. Right? They are willing to move forward despite the absence of the major economy. Other countries will work together. So these are the four very important takeaways from the G20 group of G20 meeting for you. Done? Okay. Now let me go forward. Next important articles. These are all from, let's say, editorial pages. Let's understand certain other important points as well. SIR and BLOs. In recent times, I'm pretty sure this article has not missed your attention. One or the other article where you've read will be mentioning the BLOs, that is block level officials, committing suicides or else threatening to commit suicides. Multiple states, multiple BLOs have already committed suicides. What is the reason behind it? What is actually happening? Let's try and understand this issue. The Election Commission of India, after completing the SIR in the state of Bihar, has now announced from November 4th to December 4th, 30-day time period. November 4th to December 4th, the SIR activity or SIR process, which will be conducted in 9 states as well as 3 union territories. Is the first point clear? SIR will be conducted now or is being conducted now in 9 states plus 3 union territories, essentially total 12. And they will be validating, through SIR, they will be validating 51 crore voters. They will be validating 51 crore voters. But this particular exercise, which is being conducted in multiple states now, has led to certain criticism. Let's understand that fact. Has led to certain criticism. And different political parties are using this to criticize Election Commission of India. Election Commission of India now is running basically to defend itself, right, etc., etc. Many political events are taking place now. But what is the core of the issue? What is actually happening? Let's understand. Let's dissect that information. In case of, understand this, in case of the SIR activity, special intensive revision, what is actually done? Simple. We go to every voter, we go to households, submit a data or submit a paper application form. They will give the application form. We will convert this into a digital form, that is upload this, and now Election Commission of India will validate the voters. Right? Will validate the voters whether these are the correct voters or not. If some of the voters have been removed from the list, it's not the final list. If some of them are removed, there will be an appeals process. You can submit the right documents and get your name included in the actual final voter list. This is basically the process. But the first process is enumeration. Enumeration means the BLOs will go to every house. Please remember this. BLOs will go to every house, submit an application form and take the application form and upload it digitally. Digitalization of the application form. Now listen to me very carefully. The issue here, why lot of BLOs are complaining of work pressure, why lot of BLOs are citing work pressure, some of them have committed suicide, is simply this. According to the guideline, now there is a strict pressure on these BLOs to meet targets. Right? They will have to meet the targets. For example, what do you mean by target here? Like I said, the BLOs will have to go to every household, submit the application and get the application and upload the application. And not just this, there are multiple phone calls. They will have to keep on attending phone calls. They will have to keep on updating information, etc. Now, in the process of doing all of this, what is happening is each of these BLOs, because in a state, certain number of BLOs are there, that is government officials, school teacher, etc. There are certain number of BLOs. They will have to cover the total population, that is voters population in that particular state. If you look at per BLO, how much population they will have to cover, how many voters they will have to cover. In the state of Bihar, per BLO, it was 869 people. 869 people per BLO. And same time period, 30 days was provided for the BLOs. In the state of, now, which is being conducted, in the state of Kerala, in the state of, West Bengal, and Rajasthan for that matter, per BLO, how many people are they covering now? In the state of Kerala, per BLO, they are supposed to cover 1094 people. Per BLO, 1094. In West Bengal, 950. In Rajasthan, 1047. 1047. And it's not that, again, before I go forward, it's not that in every state, the population which is allocated per BLO is very high compared to Bihar. No. There are also certain states where per BLO the population coverage is lesser. That is, for example, in the state of Goa, per BLO they are supposed to cover 687 voters, 687 people. So now look at the huge difference in some of the states. In Bihar, because generally when you look at the argument, they'll simply say, if we have conducted in Bihar, we can conduct it easily in other states. But look at per person, how many people, or per BLO, how many people they should be covering now. That burden has actually increased. And there have been multiple instances where the BLOs have gone to the higher officials. They have stated that, no, I cannot conduct under this kind of a pressure. Here, please take my resignation letter. And the higher officials have rejected the resignation letters. They have rejected the resignation letters. Right? In addition to this, they will have to, listen to the third, one of the very important conditions here. They will have to go to these households. If the person or nobody is present in the house, they will have to make at least 2 more visits. They will have to make at least 2 more visits. That is totally 3 visits in case the household is locked. In case nobody is present in the household, at least 3 visits will have to be done. And there is also complaint from the side of the BLOs that lot of these cases or lot of these regions which have been provided to us, these are very difficult to access, very far away from us. And putting all of this together, the BLOs are facing lot of pressure right now. And this has actually led to many of the BLOs writing a suicide letter complaining against the activities which are being pushed on them or forced onto them, and finally committing suicides. Right, so these are certain important points. But having said so, the Election Commission of India has given an update. What is the update given by Election Commission of India? Out of the 12 states and union territories where the SIR is being conducted, the state of Goa is stopping in terms of percentage of voters whose application forms have been digitized. Right, this is basically the update which has been provided. And today's newspaper itself, there are multiple articles associated with, let's say, the BLOs threatening to commit suicide or having committed suicides, etc. Anyways, this is the update. Please go through that. Next article, Supreme Court of India has accepted a plea to stop cash donations to political parties. What is the current affairs discussion that is happening here? The political parties in India are allowed to collect donations. And they are allowed to collect donations. But any donation which is over 2000 rupees, any donation which is more than 2000 rupees, they are not allowed to collect this in the form of a cash. They will have to collect it in other form. Other form in the sense, let's say check, demand draft, etc. So up to 2000 rupees cash, yes. Beyond 2000 rupees, no, they are not allowed to collect it. This is point number one. Point number two, whenever these donations are collected, whenever donations are collected like this, every political party will have to submit a report to Election Commission of India as well as CBDT, Central Board of Direct Taxes. What is the reason behind it? These kind of donations which are collected and along with many other sources of income are not taxable, under the Income Tax Act of 1961. And specifically the provision which will provide this kind of an exemption to the political parties in India is the Section 13A. Please remember this, Section 13A subsection D. Section 13A subsection D. This section provides an exemption to the political parties that they collect, right? Let's say the donations, they earn certain income from different sources, etc. Of course, there are conditions to that. If they meet the conditions, the taxes are exempted on this. Now, the petition in the Supreme Court of India, which has been accepted by the Supreme Court, and a notice has been issued to the Election Commission as well as to many political parties, including and Government of India also, they have sought a feedback. Right? What is basically the petition saying? This particular section under the Income Tax Act of 1961 violates the fundamental right under Article 19. Simple. It violates the fundamental rights under Article 19(1)(a). Under Article 19(1)(a), right to freedom of speech and expression. What is the basic argument? Argument is simple. I'm pretty sure all of you heard of electoral bonds. The electoral bonds, the famous or infamous electoral bonds. The electoral bond scheme of Government of India was struck down by the Supreme Court of India as unconstitutional in the year 2024, that is February 2024. Amongst multiple reasons, one of the reasons that was cited by the Supreme Court was that when electoral bonds are used to contribute to political parties, the people are not aware as to how the political parties are getting the funding. How the political parties are getting the funding, the voter doesn't understand that. The voter doesn't know that. And because the voter doesn't know, it basically will vitiate the whole election process. Vitiate in the sense, if let's say a business house will provide huge amount of funding to a political party, I don't know that. I will vote in the favor of this particular political party or the candidate. Once they come to power, they will announce a lot of reforms, lot of projects. They will allocate projects to this business house. So that kind of a vitiating process can be done. So the Supreme Court of India struck down the electoral bond scheme. Now the petition is basically saying the same should be extended even to the cash acceptance. Same argument should be extended even to the cash acceptance. What is the argument here? If a person wants to contribute huge sums of money, let's say 10 lakh rupees or 5 lakh rupees or 1 lakh rupees, because it is more than 2000 rupees, it cannot be done through cash. It has to be done through other modes where a record will be created. But instead of that, what if the person will split this amount of money in small amounts, that is less than 2000 rupees? And through various proxies, the amount will be contributed, amount will be donated to the political party. This is basically going to again lead to a quid pro quo over a period of time. That is, the contributions have been done in this way, less than 2000 rupees in the form of cash. And the political party, if it is elected to power, will reciprocate in providing certain benefit to the businessman only. So argument is very simple. The argument, or let's say the judgment related to electoral bond scheme, which cited that it is a fundamental right for the voters to understand how the political parties will get the funding, should be extended to this provision as well. And taking this into consideration, the section 13AD should be struck down as unconstitutional. This is basically, right, let's say the petition which is pending in the Supreme Court now, or which has been taken up by the Supreme Court. Going forward, you will hear a lot about this. Now, associated with this, let's solve a question. Consider the following statements. All the funding, cash or otherwise, accepted by the political parties is tax exempt. Underline the term all the funding. Is it all the funding? Is it tax exempt? No, all the funding is not tax exempt. The above tax exemption is available for registered as well as non-registered parties. It is available only for the registered parties, not for the non-registered parties. Only for the registered parties. And when I say registered parties, they should be registered under section 29A of Representations of People's Act of 1951. Both the statements are incorrect. Right option for the question will be option D, none of the above. Let's go forward. Next article. INS Mahe has been commissioned. What is the importance of this INS Mahe? Listen to me carefully. INS Mahe, first and foremost, most of the components which have been used to manufacture INS Mahe ship has been developed indigenously. Has been developed indigenously. Indigenously means within India. How much? Around 80% of the components used for the manufacturing of this have been developed in India. And this is important. I'll tell you why. This is very important. Important for a simple reason. In recent times, the government of India has been promoting self-reliance or Atmanirbharta in defense manufacturing. Let me give you certain data associated with this so that you can use it if at all a mains question is asked on this. The government of India in recent years has been promoting defense manufacturing in the domestic market itself. Rather than importing all the defense equipments, the government is promoting the production of it in India. How so? First very important reform that has been implemented by the government is FDI liberalization. In lot of these particular segments, up to 74% FDI is allowed now. FDI reforms have been liberalized. The government of India has announced research and development initiative scheme, which has been allocated with more than 1 lakh crore rupees, although very recent one. The government of India is promoting collaboration with multiple public sector undertakings. Private sector is allowed to participate as well as manufacture. And not just this, there is a particular process, DAP, Defense Acquisition Program. Please remember, Defense Acquisition Program. Under the DAP, the government of India has made it very easier, much faster, much more transparent now in order to acquire certain equipments associated for or required for the defense sector. The DAP process has been made much more transparent, much more simple, in order to improve the acquisition now. So many initiatives have been implemented by the government to boost manufacturing of defense equipments in the domestic market. And the results are clearly visible, by the way. Results are clearly visible. The best example is INS Mahe, which has 80% of the components manufactured in India. But a larger picture is in the financial year 24. In the financial year 24, remember this particular data. The total production, defense production in case of India is 1.27 lakh crore rupees, out of which more than 23,000 crore rupees worth of defense products have been exported. These have been exported. And the government of India has a target. The total defense production by 2029 should become 3 lakh crore rupees in India. And total exports of defense products from India should be more than 50,000 crore rupees by 2029. So when you look at all of this, you will understand what is the importance of INS Mahe. Apart from this, INS Mahe has been developed as a lead ship. Out of 8 vessels, this will be the lead ship. This has been referred to as a silent hunter because it will be the first line of defense in the coastal region. Done? So these are certain important points. Please have a look at the point. Let's go forward. India braces for disruption of air travel after Ethiopia's Hayli Gubbi volcano erupts. What is the importance of this article? This volcano, Hayli Gubbi, which was a dormant volcano, has erupted for the first time in the last 12,000 years. It has erupted for the first time in the last 12,000 years. And because, right, have a look at this. This is a region where the eruption has taken place. Ethiopia, this is a region. And, right, this particular eruption has thrown out fumes. And now these particular fumes, because of the wind movement, have traveled into India. Have traveled into India now. Right, the fumes or the clouds of the fumes have entered into India through Rajasthan, have right reached Delhi, and they're expected to further move into the northeastern regions. Now, what is the issue here? Why should we be worried if there is, right, let's say this kind of a movement of fumes? The issue is very simple. The DGCA, Director General for Civil Aviation, has sent a letter, has sent a, right, let's say notification to all the civil aviation companies in India. The reason being, when these particular fumes or let's say the eruptions, right, will happen, lot of, right, let's say the minerals, lot of the stone materials, etc., will be thrown upwards in the sky, which will reach up to an altitude of more than 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers, etc. And when these clouds will move into certain regions, if the aeroplanes are flying, if the planes are flying, these minerals which are present might get stuck up in the turbines. Might get stuck up in the turbines because the aeroplane, right, let's say the engines which are operating, these operate at a very high temperature. And these minerals which are present in the clouds now will enter into these, right, turbines or the engines, because these are at very high temperature. They will first melt and again freeze and basically clog up the whole engine. The engine failure might happen, and multiple instances in the past have taken place where exactly this event has happened. So the Director General for Civil Aviation has issued a warning letter to all these civil aviation companies. Those who are flying in these particular routes, try to avoid them. And if you see any kind of a smoke, if you see any kind of a, let's say, smoke within the cabins, etc., please inform the authorities. And they've also warned regarding maintaining, right, let's say the landing routes as well. Right? So these are certain important points associated with Hayli Gubbi. Now, next article, Gavi and UNICEF have signed a deal. Gavi and UNICEF have signed a deal. What is the importance of the deal? First and foremost, understand this. There are two types of vaccines which have been pre-qualified, which have been approved by World Health Organization. Two types of vaccines. One is R21 matrix M. R21 matrix M. And the second one is, right, the Novavax matrix X. Matrix M. Okay, matrix M. These two types of vaccines are essentially, RTS, not the second one, RTS SASO1. Okay, so these are the two types of vaccines for malaria which have been pre-approved by World Health Organization. But what is the importance of this? These malaria vaccines usually are slightly costlier. Right? In terms of cost wise, these are costlier. And because these are costlier, many of the nations around the world, especially African countries, where the instances of malaria are very, very high, they will not be able to afford these vaccines and provide it for the people. They will not be able to provide vaccination to the people. And that is where the entity such as Gavi will come into picture. Gavi essentially is a public-private organization, public-private partnership. And what do you mean by public-private partnership? Please have a look at the composition or the members of Gavi. You will realize that countries are present, the private sector entities, right, the non-profit organizations are present, the global agencies such as UNICEF and World Health Organization, all of these are members. So this entity Gavi, which was set up back in the year 2000, right, in Switzerland, renaming has happened. Now this is called as Gavi, will basically use the funds to ensure that UNICEF will be able to purchase these vaccines at a lesser price. Simple. UNICEF will be able to purchase these vaccines at a lesser price. And when UNICEF will be able to purchase these vaccines at a lesser price, they will be able to provide the vaccination for more and more people. And more children can be vaccinated. because of these kinds of deals which have been signed or which have been signed and which has been signed right now, right? So this is the importance of the article. Now, is there any connection between Gavi and India? Right? Because everything will boil down to India. Is there any connection between both? Please remember this. Until 2017, India was actually a country where support was given by Gavi. That is basically vaccines, immunization, etc. The programs were provided by Gavi, financed by Gavi. But after 2017, India has moved out of, right, let's say this particular process. Rather than being a receiver of the support, now government of India actually contributes for the implementation of the Gavi programs. And how does the how does the Gavi identify which countries we have to implement? Can they implement these kind of programs in any country? No. The parameter that is used by Gavi essentially is the gross national income. Remember this, the gross national income. All these points can be asked in the preliminary examination. Gross national income. For example, right now, the gross national income, that parameter that is being considered by Gavi for the implementation of these kind of reforms is essentially $1,820. $1,820. Right? India's per capita national income is more than $2,500. That's the reason I said 2017, India has moved out of the program where they would get support. Now, Government of India is providing support for the implementation of programs under Gavi. These are certain important points. Let's solve an MCQ very quickly now. Consider the following statements regarding Gavi. It was established in the year 2000. Yes, the statement is correct. Second one, it is a public-private partnership that focuses primarily on low-income countries. What is the answer? Please participate and do let me know. Yes, second statement is also true. Gavi identifies the beneficiary countries based on the population size. To provide support, it's not the population size, gross national income. India has migrated from the Gavi's beneficiary support framework in 2025. This is incorrect. Not in 2025, back in 2017. Right? First and second statements are true. Right option for the question will be option B. Okay. Last article for today, just factual information. Chief Justice, right, that is Justice Surya Kant, yesterday has taken the oath. Remember, who will administer the oath for the Chief Justice? The administration of the oath for the Chief Justice is done by the President of India. Right? Look at the photo, you will realize. Chief Justice of India, Justice Surya Kant yesterday took the oath and has now become the 53rd Chief Justice of India. He will remain as Chief Justice for a substantial time period now, that is till end of January, that is specifically February 2, 2027. Right, so these are just factual information, and apart from this, remember what is the article which under which the Chief Justice, or let's say article associated with the Supreme Court, articles associated with the President performing this particular duty, etc. Please remember all of these data points. Okay. So these are the various articles that I wanted to discuss with you people in today's session. Now, if you have any kinds of doubts or issues or concerns regarding whatever I've discussed, do let me know. But before that, if you have liked this discussion that I've done so far, hit the like button. If you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Yes, any doubts, any confusion, any issue with whatever I've discussed so far? Done then. That's it from my side. Take care. See you tomorrow with other set of articles which will appear in tomorrow's Hindu newspaper. That's it. Take care.